generally speaking, the stock market is now 15%.
Well, nuclear power is very important, and Australians need to sort of understand what's happening and what has been happening in pockets of Europe, America, but mainly Europe. I mean, the Parisians and the French have had over 70 nuclear power stations for over 45 years. Everyone gets caught up on those headlines with Chernobyl and what happened in Japan, but the technology now on nuclear power is greatly advanced, and I think that the cost of we can't continue down the path we're going. Windmills and solar puts a dent in the cost. Windmills certainly don't, and have an adverse effect on the environment. But I think nuclear, well controlled, looking at some of the great countries in the world that have done so well in this space, I think it's an absolute must. And the key thing about the theory and whether it's right and it's certainly proven to be it work well, the key is the understanding and how it's sold and conveyed to people so they understand it, rather than nuclear power headlines. People get frightened by the threat of that because they don't understand it. And so when knowledge is down, fear goes up, and it works the other way. So I think that's, I'm a big fan of nuclear, and I think that Dutton was quite bold in bringing that out to the table 4 or 5 weeks ago. I don't think it was well conveyed, and whether that gets support, that will be, I doubt whether that will be, because I just don't think it's been conveyed, or it wasn't. The way that should be promoted to people is that the research, the scientists need to be able to prove that information, and it needs to be tabled in the white paper. People need to get an understanding of the pros and cons of nuclear, and if people looked at what their potential power bill, this is how you hit it home, what the potential power bill will be home that affects their family and their kids over 1, 5, 10, 20, 30 years, you'll probably find the figures that we've done, that the power bill over a 30-year period is about the cost, it's around about 20 to 23% of a house, compounding. If that same money was invested, it's a bit like the same, someone put on Facebook the other day, but it's been verified, I think I mentioned in the previous one, if you had have invested the same money into every iPhone between 2007 to 2024, and bought the iPhone 16 and put the same money into Apple shares, that you've spent $21,500 on an iPhone, upgrading each time. That same money invested into Apple today is worth $209 million. So you look back on that, and I'd rather communicate via drum and have the stock rather than the new phone. So, but it's the same with nuclear, and I think that everyone gets hung on what happened in the 80s, and it's what they call stinking thinking. I find that Zig Ziglar used to say that, and it's a great term. They bury their head in the sand, and so I'm all for it. And I think it just needs to be well detailed, well reported, and it needs to be conveyed properly to the public before they accept it and jump on. We've got a pretty good grip on that because we're actually doing some data centres at the moment. We've had some demand from some land that we actually own in Melbourne, in the industrial area for heavy data centre. Whilst this technology is moving so fast, is that people don't understand is that the power cost and the drive, I mean for digital currency, crypto, and overall data supply, and particularly with AI, that the power cost to drive this technology is 4 to 5 times. So as you spend more money on technology to drive that, is that you need to be able to provide the data and the storage, which the draw on that is massive. And so the expense on that, at the same time, you'll see power costs in a company that's moved to more digital with AWS, GPT, AI, the power cost, and then if you read the annual report from Amazon, if they didn't go down that space, that the bottom line is affected by about 18%. That gives you some idea of the cost to run, to keep ahead of the curve. And they've just made the call. And America's a place where you can do it. It's a can-do place. I mean, so there's none of this bureaucracy or less in America than what there is here. So I'm all for it. Microsoft the same. It's all driven by, if you walk into these, what we're finding also at the moment too, while you're getting onto data, a lot of data centres, they're very secure, and we're dealing with, at the moment, working with 3 and 4 and 5 level. What we've seen, the innovation in some countries that they're testing at the moment is taking data down underground, because the key thing, not so much the power draw on data, is it's the cooling and the cooling requirements and so forth. So I think that, you know, that's the future, and it will follow on. It'll have to follow on here. The problem that you've got in this country, of course, you've got little production to be able to. It has to be taken out. You've got to tax the rich to fund that. In America, everybody pays. Everyone benefits from that. Well, I think Australia's fallen behind. I think Australia now in Western world, as far as productivity outside of mining, I mean, banking's still world class. I mean, our banks here are as good as anything in the world as far as policy, procedures, processes, security. Mining, which is because we just happen to have the best resources. But as an economy, as far as productivity, costs, labour, efficiency, I'd say we're 20 years behind. Out of 195 countries, we're 20 years behind the United States, and even further behind Asia. Years behind. Yeah, the efficiency ratio here it's akin to a fine-tuned Rolls-Royce V12 to a 6-cylinder Camry. The output, the efficiency ratio on that, they've fallen well behind. Now it's just a case of actually having the politician, someone with the insight and the ability to be trusted and understand it. So that therefore, you know, Alan Finkel and those particular guys those scientists, they've been fully supportive of this. But it's about working in one room, not the leader of a country, but getting the best possible team and then conveying the public and giving reasons why we support this. You know, and that's going to take time.